Welcome to another Blackout Message with me, Solarah. I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm recording this on Saturday, May the 11th, and we are a few days out of the new moon in Taurus, which also, on the heels of that new moon, we had quite the solar flare activity. And so I hope you guys are doing well. You're resting, you're hydrating, you're grounding, and you're staying connected to your truth, and you're standing in your power, because all of this is integral to what is coming forth next. And indeed, this is why at every turn you're going to be dealing right now with beings who are trying to knock you off of your ability to stand in your power and your truth. And for many of you, the way that they're doing that is by trying to make you feel ashamed for aspects of yourself that you have reclaimed painstakingly, and that they want to kind of poke and nudge you in those places to kind of get you to reopen a story of an old insecurity when you've already done closed the chapter. Maybe you done sold the book. You're done with it. And these beings are coming, trying to bring a book for you to reopen. And some of it's unconscious, some of it's malicious, and a lot of it, to be completely frank with you, are people who haven't done the requisite shadow work, don't know how to differentiate their own inner angst from connecting with what they see shining in another person that brings that up. So instead of learning how to connect with that within themselves, that spirit of envy rises, and they start to find fault and become extremely critical and judgmental. And a lot of them will try to, like I said, nudge you and kind of poke at you in exactly the sore spots that you've had to do a lot of work to overcome. And some of them will do it intentionally, because many beings who engage in this kind of behavior, they're very good at finding people's insecurities. Don't get it twisted. But again, some of them are just unconscious because of their own shadows, their unclaimed shadow. And when you don't claim your own shadow, you open yourself up to be taken over by other dark forces and energies that want to use you in order to be a channel. You can channel anything, right? That's the beauty of your construction, energetically speaking, is that energy flows through waters. Your waters are your emotions. So when a being has a low emotion towards you, say hatred, or they're sitting in such a place of shame in their own reality that they want to drag you into that story to get some kind of temporary relief, then they open themselves up to matching energies that want to live their reality vicariously through them. And we're all susceptible to that. We're all channels. That's the beauty of who we are. And this is why we regulate our energies. So we are channeling all things as we need them, when we need them, consciously, without these energies overtaking us, which is what the false matrix opened us all to do. So this is why I will often say to you guys, and I've said it especially to clients privately, whenever you see an old story of yours that you have done a lot of work to work through, or that you are currently doing the soul work to heal, an old wound, and somebody is poking at that wound. We call it triggering sometimes, especially in these times of attacks and things are coming through strangers, because so many of you you've had it with the fuckery and you're hermiting yourselves, right? When you see that energy moving through another being, know that the only reason that energy can channel through them is because the emotion they have towards you matches the same one that the entity has that is channeling through them also. In other words, a being who has purely goodwill and good intentions towards you is not able to channel an energy or an entity that hates you or that has a history of being at war with you, trying to take you down. They don't have the ability. Now, that doesn't mean that at any turn and at any time they can't become open to that. right? Which is why it's so important in intimate relationships. The book that they call the Bible, which we know has been tampered with, but it has a lot of spiritual wisdom in it. There is a passage that speaks about not letting the sun go down on your anger when you love someone, or I think when you're possibly married. But this applies to all intimate relationships. We don't go to bed angry. We don't leave conflict unresolved, because when we do, we leave room for emotions to run wild within us that open the floodgates for other matching energies and entities to channel through us unconsciously without our knowing. And it's especially dangerous when we're asleep at night, because when we are no longer in conscious control of our ship, our vehicle, our vessel, we become more open to intrusion. And this is why it's so important also to do the requisite protection work for yourself before you sleep, up until the point where you get to a place where you are holding your power and your frequency so magnanimously that you don't have to constantly do protective work. You become the protection spell. You no longer have to cast it. It's now a part of you. Okay, so that's my little intro. And before I get in, let me give my quick disclaimer. I want to first and foremost welcome everyone. Welcome if you're visiting for the first time. Welcome to my newest subscribers. Thank you for being here. Welcome to those who are returning listeners and subscribers. I thank you for all of your support, your donations, your listening. Those of you who support me across platforms, I really do appreciate you and your beings and your essence. Thank you. A disclaimer, those of you who have secret animosities, you want to come here to pick me apart, find what's wrong with me, you think you can do what I do better, you are supposed to be out there also speaking your truth, but you're afraid to do so, you're not ready to do so, and instead of preparing yourself and drink and soaking in other beings' wisdom with an openness and gratitude, you want to pick them apart because you're miserable, because you're not doing what you're supposed to do yourself. You're not welcome here. And your own soul will show you you're not welcome here, because that will be the energy and the emotion that rises in you against me. So if you have a problem with me, with what I just said, with what I said before, with the longness of my introduction, with how I speak, with how I look if you've seen me in my videos, with my accent, with my slight lisp because of my accident history, I don't give a fuck what it is. Or you have a problem with the fact that I swear and you think that's low vibrational, whatever narrative, false matrix narrative you've bought about vibration. If you have any problem with me, or you think you have a problem with me, I invite you to exit stage left or stage right, whichever one is closest to you, and go along your merry way and find the beings who you are a frequential match. Find the beings who match what it is you think and what it is you feel. Okay? And even some of you come here because you know what it is I'm saying. You resonate with the message, but you don't like me as a being. Y'all can fuck off too. Okay? Because the truth of the matter is that's not the world we're living in anymore. That's not the world we're creating. We are creating a world where we value one another as we are. Okay? And we all have evolving and evolution to do. None of us are perfect, but we're not here to pick one another apart. We're here to help one another to rise. And if you're not here to help me to rise, help my collective to rise. And in doing so, help yourself to rise. And if this is the wrong venue for you to rise, I invite you to find the right one, because believe it or not, I want to see you rise, because your internal harmony and peace and ability to truly love yourself and others is very interconnected to the harmony and the peace that we are desiring to establish as a collective on the earth and in the world. So please go and do what you have to do to find your internal peace. And all joking aside and playing aside, I wish you well. I really do. Okay? But you're not coming here to disturb my peace. And you're not coming here to bring discord into my energy. Okay? So, with that being said, this is very much the energy that we're dealing with right now. I've been talking about it. I've been writing about it. I've been experiencing it. And I just read another beautiful soul on Substack who was writing about the astrology of the new moon in Taurus and how it's facilitating this, very specifically the Lilith energies and the Pluto energies. And y'all know I do tarot astrology, but I'm not classically trained in astrology, so I don't break down squares and trines and all of that. I find it fascinating, but that's not how I was trained to learn astrology. So when I'm able to vibe with a person who does that so freely and does it with soul, I really do appreciate that. And I found a beautiful writer. I don't remember. I think her name is Melissa. I think she's here on YouTube too, but I found her on Substack, and I'm going to do my best to link her new moon in Taurus article on Substack in the description box below. And I believe through the Substack article, for those of you who prefer video and audio, there is also a YouTube link, because it was very, very eye-opening, and she goes in on these energies right now from an astrological and a more a more technical but very soulful perspective. Okay, so I will share that. But right now we are entering into a time where we are learning once again not to give any fucks about people who have a problem with us. Okay, now I know that many of you will say that you've already kind of been living like that, but this is a whole other level. Okay, and the reason for this, the importance of this, is because the templates of karmic relationships were based upon pretension, based upon fakeness, based upon coercion, based upon a constant need for other beings to try to change one another and themselves in order to feel like they were worthy of love, or worthy of being with a person, or worthy of having a mortgage, whatever reason people stay together. And got together in the false matrix, because marriage itself was never about love. It was actually always a contract about property and assets. That's the true history of marriage, right? So in order to undo these karmic, or not reroute these karmic templates, we must stand in the fullness of who we are and not accept beings who are trying to come in and change us in any way. The only one who's supposed to change you is you, and that's when you're ready to change. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter how broken you are, okay? It doesn't matter how much your soul is in disrepair and you're working to heal it right now. Beings who are truly have value for you at every level are going to let you do what you need to do to get to your next level without interfering and trying to change you. Whenever we allow other beings to interfere and try to change us, we open ourselves to karmic lessons, because the only programmer that is really supposed to mess with your controls is you. There are two programmers, well, technically 3 programmers you get in your life through being on the earth planes. The first and chief programmer that lets you into this plane is your mother. Then your father also has a role to play, which is why both the karmic rewards and the karmic justice that comes to parents who don't properly know how to unlock the divinity within their children are steep, because it's a high honor to be a parent. It's a high honor to be entrusted with the ability to program a soul into its divinity. And so those are your first chief programmers, and then they pass the controls to you. Okay, and then you become your soul chief programmer. Okay, so no one's supposed to be messing with your controls and telling you how to be, how to act, how to dress, how to talk, how to anything without you signing off consciously in agreement, because that's what you want to do, instead of being manipulated or shamed into that position. When we open the doors to shame, when we allow ourselves to be manipulated, we open ourselves to karmic lessons. And we open ourselves to karmic lessons because oftentimes we're changing to appease another person, and we're appeasing the other person because we want their acceptance, and we've sent the message out energetically, your acceptance of me is more important than my acceptance with me. But guess what? Only you live and occupy the vessel and experience you create with your energy, not anyone else trying to change you. So at all times, it's about you being comfortable in your own energy, in your own power, in your own truth, and then being around beings who further bolster that sense of comfort and confidence you need in order to evolve on your own terms. Okay, so this energy right now of being very Aries-like energy and Taurus energy too. Both Aries and Taurus are headstrong signs. They teach us how to establish what it is we want to think and stand there and hold our guns, right? Aries and Taurus connect us with the stubbornness we need not to be shifted off of our true mentality. And when I say your true mentality, I'm talking about the true mind that connects you to your divinity, how you actually should be thinking about yourself divinely. Okay, so let's get into the downloads because it all ties into what I just said in the beginning of this. Okay, so sometimes the greatest self-deception program of the false matrix that you have to break is the one that has you denying your greatness. I'm going to say that 2 more times. Sometimes the greatest self-deception program of the false matrix that you have to break is the one that has you denying your greatness. And one last time. Sometimes the greatest self-deception program of the false matrix that you have to break is the one that has you denying your own greatness. Okay, so I'm going to let that land with you for a second. And that's the reason why I also will repeat things, because there's power in repetition. And I do it as I am guided to. Okay? So everything in the false matrix, from the way we were parented, because of how they were parented, from the traditions we upkeep, to the schooling, to the way we learn to socialize, to work environments, everything that makes up, our lives, is all about getting us to deny our own greatness, getting us to trade our own greatness for another story that someone else has given us. And here's the thing. Depending on who you are in the world, there are going to be things that have been very specifically placed in the false matrix program to silence you. So, for example, if you are a starseed or a high frequency being, whatever title you want to give yourself, you came here to assist the shifting of the collective frequency so that we could elevate into new earth. There were very specific programs that were implemented across, their systems and institutions to disempower you very specifically, right? If you are a specific race, I'm a Black woman. There are very specific programs that were designed to disempower women and disempower very specifically Black women. And there's a very real reason for that. Everywhere in the false matrix program where they seek to disempower is where the true power lies. And the true power I'm speaking about is the power that is needed to activate the collective back into truth. Okay? So wherever let me break that down on a personal level, wherever you were attacked in the false matrix is actually where your power resides. So my channel this one is called Solarah Speaks. It was my first, second channel on YouTube, but my first real one that I created from an empowered state, right? So it's called Solarah Speaks because one of the main programs in the matrix, I shouldn't say one of the main programs, I should say one of the main themes of the many programs that the false matrix used against me was to constantly silence me. And it happened in a myriad of ways. From the time I was a child, I was ignored, I was rejected, I was bullied, I was made fun of, I was cast out, I was scapegoated. That's one way. But then we continued to build upon that energy. And when I became an adult, I was overlooked for many things. I was made to feel like I was dumb, like my caliber of intelligence didn't match other beings. And the truth of the matter, now that I see and that I know who I am, the reality was I was a threat, because not only am I intellectually smart, I'm also extremely emotionally astute. And that's a deadly combination, because I'm not just sitting here spouting and regurgitating information from books. I can read a fucking room. I can feel into all things. And beings like that are dangerous, because we can connect and see everything that's going on. And before we know that, we think there's something wrong with us. We buy their fairy tale, we buy their myth that we have a deficit. You're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that. You don't fit into the cookie cutter conveyor belt being that we have been manufacturing very purposely through our systems, through our religions, through our communities, through the way we structured family. You don't fit into that. There's not something wrong with that structure. There's something wrong with you. And that's supposed to create a pathology of continued self-rejection, to the point where you start to feel worthless and like you have nothing to say, nothing to contribute, nothing to add, right? And so that energy was further fed through the opening of things like social media. Social media was very much about, again, forcing the false programs of the matrix and utilizing those beings who they knew they could manipulate as puppets to get more beings under their influence, which is why as soon as people who started to speak truth and use their platforms to get their true messages out, they were shadow banned, they were silenced. The algorithm very conveniently can't pick up on them, right? And it's all a ploy to try to shut you up in order to increase your own sense of self-worth. Because here's the thing about all of us as divine beings, we came here to express our truth. We came here to live in our truth. We came here to be expressive and creative. That's the Leo energy. We came here to connect with our imaginations and create new realities on earth based upon our own special branding of gifts and talents and resources and what that connects us with cosmically, which is why the false matrix had to shut you down, shut you up as a child to kill that spirit in you. And here's the thing about Taurus season. Taurus is over the throat. It's over the throat chakra, but not only is it over the throat chakra, because this is how connected your voice and standing in your truth is to your true divine worth. Taurus is connected to your true divine or cosmological net worth. It's connected to your ability to properly materialize wealth on this planet based upon your ability to know who you are and express it and to live it. The throat chakra isn't only about words, it's about self-expression. Taurus and Leo are very interconnected. They're two of the fixed signs of the zodiac. And Taurus helps you to embody and materialize your worth. Okay, and so at every turn, beings who are rubbed the wrong way for you being who you actually just are will be loud during Taurus season, because they are still somehow encumbered, whether they want to admit it or not, or whether it's even unwittingly, because we're all still trying to free ourselves of the minutiae and the nuances and the tiny aspects where we've been falsely programmed out of ourselves, and we're still letting go of that programming because for many of us it was highly unconscious. But these beings who are here to try to shut you down when you're simply being who you fucking are actually still implementing these false matrix programs that are designed to make you feel ashamed in your power, ashamed in your truth, ashamed to speak up because you're not perfectly polished, ashamed because you don't match what it is that the false matrix program says you have to be in order to be a fill-in-the-gap person. You swear you can't be spiritual. You're ugly in the eyes of society, you can't model. All of these crazy things. And we know We know that none of that is true. Because for one thing, and I broke this down in the New Moon in Taurus video, TAROTSTROLOGY Ascension Report on my other channel, every single being is beautiful. There is no false standard of beauty. That's the fucking Matrix program. Every being has beauty because every being, organic being, is divine. And if you can't find the beauty in another being, then you're missing the reward. And this is what Taurus season is actually here to show us. That every single being, every single thing, every single circumstance that comes our way has beauty, has value, has worth. If you don't know how to handle that being's worth, then keep it moving. Keep it moving so somebody else who knows how to handle and appreciate them in their worth can be in your place. But we're not here to loiter around in people's energy when we don't value them. And here's how that connects to your ability to accrue your own sense of wealth. Your value system is what creates your material wealth. Beings who think lowly of themselves tend to not be able to hold vast amounts of wealth. That's just an energetic setting that the false matrix exploited. It always was there. Why was it there? Because you weren't supposed to have access to too many cosmological resources if you didn't know how to handle the value of them. And this is what the New Earth financial system is re-implementing. If we really, truly want to be rich and wealthy and all of these things that beings in the spiritual community, your abundance want to talk about. Your abundance is found in your ability to find the value and the beauty in every living thing. Whether you agree with them or not, whether you stick around them or not, it doesn't matter. Can you find the beauty? Can you find the value? And please, let me make it very clear, because someone tried to make it seem as if I was being a hypocrite the other day. I ain't even going to give you the time of day to go into the fullness of the situation. But let me tell you something. You can cuss someone out and still find the beauty and the value, but still tell them what it is you need to say. Please don't get it twisted. Please don't get caught up in these puritanical, false matrix, martyrdom stories and programs that tell you that in order to find the value in someone, you have to always be nice. That's a lie. Love isn't nice. Love is kind, but love is also above all things truthful. Above all things truthful. Okay? And there's a time to raise your voice. There's a time to war. There's a time to say what it is you need to say. And there's also a time to handle other beings with more gentleness and peace. And you have to trust your own spirit to know how to move and why you're doing that. And whether you're moving from woundedness or whether you're moving because you're seeing something that needs to be dealt with. That's your divine authority. And when you're moving in proper integrity and you have true value for yourself and for others, you will take all of that into account before you say or do anything. So by the time I have too much patience for most people, to be completely honest. And I'm not talking about people who deserve my patience. I mean that I will give people chance after chance after chance, because that's just the kind of person I am. And because I want to be given that too. I give to people what it is that I want also. Okay, and that's how it should be too. When we treat other beings as we want to be treated, then we know how to treat them with love for as long as we're treating ourselves with love and respect. Right? So by the time I get to being harsh with someone, it's because I've reached a threshold where I'm not taking crap anymore, or because I see how an energy is moving and I'm interrupting it. And I'm very, very aware of doing that now, because I've learned many harsh lessons from being too nice, from being too kind, from letting things slide. I've opened, because I'm not here to do that. I'm here. I know my true energy signature. I know who I am. I know how I'm supposed to move. And when we all are in that position, and that doesn't make me perfect, it just makes me aware. Okay, and that's what it is. No one's perfect. We're all here learning. We're all here growing. We're all here expanding. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to be here. We wouldn't need one another as a mirror. We wouldn't need, the experience. But you still, at every juncture, as you grow and evolve, have to know who you are based upon what you've learned so far. The evolving and the growing come from lessons that you haven't tapped into yet. But everything that you've learned thus far should be what is directing you as a compass to allow you to know how to move in every energy in a way that brings honor to yourself and brings harmony internally. And here's the thing. If in an exchange, if you're dealing with a person and their intentions are truly harmonious towards you, they will not upset your inner harmony. They will not upset your inner harmony. So the thing is that even when beings trigger us and it's our own wounding, we still, while we have to look at our own wounding, we also have to look at, why is it coming through you? Why is it coming through you? And we have to be honest, because sometimes it's coming through them because of things that we, especially in intimate relationships, things we need to take a hard look at in ourselves because we've built that energy off of our own dysfunction. But sometimes it's coming through other beings because they have this secret animosity, and it's secret not to you at this point. It's a bigger secret to them. Because people have this issue, so many people, because they've lived in these false matrix, puritanical martyrdom programs, they don't like to see certain aspects of themselves. So they would rather lie to themselves, and they would rather pretend to themselves that they're this high and mighty being that could never feel this, could never say this, could never stoop here, could never do that. They would rather maintain that false sense of, wounded ego. They'd rather hold on to that than admit to truth and to go deep and to find out that actually those parts of themselves that they're rejecting, that's where their true power resides. And this is why those energies, the lower vibrating entities, they like to flow through that, is because that energy that they're rejecting and they refuse to see is really powerful. And we all do it. I shouldn't say they, I should say we, because we're all learning still how to completely rise out of that. So those energies that we refuse to take responsibility for, those aspects of self, shadow aspects of self that we refuse to accept, those are the very places where our power is actually magnified. That's where our power is actually magnified. I want you to remember the false matrix works on an inversion. They're not going to try to get you to give up parts of yourself that aren't valuable. And I spoke about this a few readings ago, and I put up the post. I put the link in the description box of that reading also, when I spoke about the article I wrote for Scorpio season that I opened up to the collective again this week, because those themes are coming up again. Scorpio season is when they take your unclaimed shadow and they cash in on it. And I'm not going to go into the intricacies of how that's done right now, but I need you to know that your shadow, those parts of yourself that the false matrix constantly forced you to shame and use other people to shame you and to repress you in, those parts of yourself are where your power and your wealth lie. It's in those big parts of yourself where there's these beautiful talents and gifts and resources that you're unable to reach because you don't think you're big enough. But the power and the wealth also resides in those low aspects of self that you think you're supposed to be ashamed of because somebody told you you were supposed to be, right? Wrong. Your sexuality, that's the doorway to wealth that they want to control through their lustful programs, through your repression, through religion. Religion, the church, Catholicism specifically, but the churches in general are some of the biggest sacral harvesting institutions on the planet. And they get regular supply because they had us ritually attending on a Sunday, the day of the sun. These people knew what they were doing. Okay, so Sometimes, let's get back into the download. Sometimes the greatest self-deception program of the false matrix that you have to break is the one that has you denying your own greatness. It's okay for you to be big. It's okay for you to be loud. It's okay for you to be bold. It's okay for you to be messy. It's okay if you don't get everything as fast as everyone else does. It's okay if you have a different schedule. It's okay. It's okay to live in accordance with who you are and your own limitations as you grow. There's no real race. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay, so entities that kept you small and in your place will always seek to silence and dim you covertly. Entities that kept you small and in your place will always seek to silence and dim you covertly. Covertly. So you know those times when somebody says something to you and it rubs you the wrong way, but they say it to you so nicely. And you know, like, what do we call it now? We call it throwing shade. You know that even though they, glossed it over, they've added some honey, they've sprinkled some cinnamon, they put in a dash of vanilla and they've sugared that shit up. You know that beneath that veneer is shit. You know that really how they feel about you is not how they're expressing themselves. Okay, but oftentimes, how do you respond to that? You start to question yourself. Am I being difficult? Am I reading too much into things? Am I being paranoid? And if you bring it up to them, then they will flip the story on you and make it seem like you're the crazy one, right? But here's the thing. You're not here to pay attention to people's words. You're here to pay attention to how everything makes you feel. If something makes you feel like shit, it doesn't even matter if their intention was good. If it makes you feel like shit, maybe they're moving in unconscious energies that are harming your soul that they may not be aware of, but you're aware of it because of how it made you feel. So you need to start, breaking down the picture and figuring out, is this a place of woundedness inside of me, or is this triggering, is this an entity that's jumping? Because that's another big thing in Taurus season, especially those entities that found their way through karmic mothers and you're not really in any contact with them anymore, or they're no longer in a situation where they can be like that towards you anymore. Those entities that once inhabited them, which were your chief programmers into self-hatred, that were connected to the false matrix program when you entered and were designed to keep you down. Yeah, many of us have many different entities that were very specifically put on us. Those entities, when they can't flow through the chief prime programmer that you had, that your true programming is based upon, right? Because even as you program yourself after you become an adult, it's based on that primary programming you got from your mother. So of course, those entities want to find their way through the mother to get to you. Okay, so when they can't do that anymore through your mom, maybe you're just, for whatever reason, it doesn't even matter. We won't even get into that, but they will try to find another way to jump through other beings. And all of a sudden you'll feel a certain way towards someone that feels familiar. The feeling feels familiar, but the context feels different because the person is different. Pay attention. That's an energy or an entity that is flowing through that being. It's jumped into them to affect you. And this is not for you to be afraid. This is to empower you so that you know and you see these things now for what they are. And again, I'm going to tell you something else. These people don't have to be bad. They just have to be triggered. They just have to be in some way, shape or form operating from a place of woundedness that opens them up in this way. But please understand and overstand that no entity that has a vendetta against you, especially the personal ones that have been placed against you from the time you entered into the false matrix, these entities can only flow through other beings who share the emotion they have towards you. Those entities can only flow through other beings that share the same emotion that they have towards you. What does that mean? That means that if an entity hates your ass, if it can't stand you, if it doesn't like your voice, or if its mission is very specifically to silence your voice, it's going to work through a being who doesn't like you, who doesn't like the sound of your voice, who's something about their own experience personally and their own relationship with their voice has them threatened by the way you speak. That's how it works. This thing was so intricately designed, it blows my mind as I continue to see the intricacies of it all and how it was built. So right now, we are switching the narcissistic templates of the false matrix back into God mode. We are switching the narcissistic templates of the false matrix back into God mode, and we've been doing that. There's a reason why, in the past few years, there's been a sudden influx and exposure of narcissism. Narcissism isn't anything new. It's been running this show the whole time. It's what they built. It's what the templates were built upon, energetically speaking. But it's been everywhere because being's consciousness is rising, and now we're able to better see that. But here's another false matrix trap and another false matrix program. Everywhere you go now, you're hearing about a narcissist this, narcissist that. And what beings don't realize is that we were all tuned into narcissistic programming. And I learned this back a few years ago. It was back in 2020 when I began to wake up more to the narcissistic agendas and cycles that had been ruling my own life. And I was getting caught up talking to people about the narcissistic abusers and what they'd done to me. And my guides, if they could have yanked me by the neck in the physical, that's kind of what they did. And they said, no, boo-boo. The time for talking about this shit is over. They swooped me up out of that group and said, you're not to talk to them anymore. And this was family, by the way. They said, you're not to talk to them anymore. Yes, you have a lot of this abuse in common, and you can commiserate with one another. They said to me, but that's just trauma bonding. That's trauma bonding, because let's look at the ways that narcissistic abuse has actually affected your relationship with them and how they see you because of your position as a scapegoat in all of this. They have no fucking respect for you. They're just sitting here talking with you right now about all of this because you're waking up to it, and you have a common enemy. But having a common enemy doesn't make you, doesn't put you in alignment, doesn't mean that beings respect you. And then my guide said, and furthermore, more importantly, it's time for you to start dealing with the narcissism within you. The ways that was allowed to grow and proliferate in your reality, and also the programming you fell under having been raised in that environment. It's not time to get caught up talking about how other beings are. It's time for you to take a look at yourself and to reprogram yourself out of that shit. And that's exactly what I did. I became a villain to the people who we were once upon a time talking about, our abusers, etc. And then, the minute that I decided to focus on my own healing, there was a complete shift in the dynamic. And there wasn't a shift in the dynamic. What happened was what was always there was just revealed. That's all it is. The lack of respect, the disdain, the dislike, all of that was just uncovered. It always was there, but underneath the nice words, the fakeness, the pretense, the trauma bonding, it could stay well hidden. But the minute I started to get real with myself, and I refused to continue talking about other beings and their narcissistic agendas, and started to look at my own and my own susceptibility to falling into that time and time again, being in the narcissistic empath template. How did I keep on falling into that? The minute I started to pay attention to both, the parts of me that had been victimized, but also the parts of me that had the propensity to be a victimizer too, in my own woundedness, and mainly towards myself, to be completely honest. But still, that's the worst person you can enact something against. because if you do it to yourself, you will do it to others. It's only a matter of time, and oftentimes it will be unconscious. So we're switching the narcissistic templates of the false matrix back into God mode. And I'm sharing that with you about, dealing with, the narcissism or what it has produced in you, the woundedness, the pathologies, the false matrix identities that have been born from these constant being under the programs of narcissists. We must confront that, because it's become so important in switching these templates back into God mode. Because here's the truth of the matter, and I shared it with you guys on my new moon in Taurus video on my other channel, is that you are supposed to be full of yourself. And I will give full credit to my beautiful baby girl for giving me this lesson years ago. It was, I think, maybe last year or 2 years ago. She came to me, she said, "Mom, I don't understand. People always say to you, you're not supposed to be full of yourself. But I don't get it, Mom. If I'm not full of myself, then who am I supposed to be full of?" And when she said that to me, a light bulb went off, and I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. They don't want you full of yourself, because when you're not full of yourself, then you give room for all of these energies, entities, programs, and and storylines that they need you to adhere to creep into your system and command your energy. So technically, we are supposed to be full of ourselves, and narcissism is actually beings pretending to be something that they're not. Right? So because we are built to be God over self, that is our divine reality. When we don't do that, we will try to find ways in our imbalance to kind of make sense of that. And narcissists, people who have high narcissistic traits, I should say, are beings who are trying to outsource that energy and to be God over other beings when they haven't even learned how to be God over self. Because here's the thing, once you learn how to be God over self, you worry about yourself alone. You don't worry about controlling anyone else's reality. That's another way you know when beings are trying to come into your fields and try to control you, that they're not in proper alignment. Because any being who is truly in proper alignment with themselves is not busy trying to change someone else, is not busy trying to alter anyone else. They are constantly tuning into self and seeing what that brings into their fields and adjusting their own internal settings accordingly, so that they can start calling into themselves the things they want. They're not going into places and getting upset when things are not the way they think they should be. They realize that that's an internal setting issue. It's nothing to do with the beings outside of them. Okay. And so when beings come towards me and they try to shift my reality and change me, I laugh. I'm like, how powerless are you that you think you have to change someone else in order to feel comfortable? You're a weak being. Because a strong, powerful being knows that the only time you have to shift something externally is if it's pushing itself into your reality. At that point, then you can get up and be like, I don't think so, get out. And then you still deal with the internal settings that allowed that to happen in the first place. Maybe you haven't asserted your boundaries enough verbally, or maybe even internally. It doesn't matter. You do what you have to do in order to maintain your peace, because you're an autonomous, sovereign being who has the sole authority over how your energy works. And anyone who's trying to come in and tamper with your controls is fully out of alignment. And the minute they try to do that, they're revealing to you that they're out of alignment. And that's why you can't even take it personally. Once upon a time, the things that people used to say to me used to really upset me, because I'm a really sensitive person and because I've been through a fuckload of abuse. From the time I was a kid, it was never ending. And now, because I see, oh, wow, you're trying to change me because I'm a threat to you, or you're trying to change me because you refuse to see something in yourself. I reflect something back to you in yourself that you don't want to see. And so you're trying to make me the issue in order to temporarily appease yourself. Oh, okay. So really what you are is you're a powerless being. And the only way you can feel a sense of power for even a minute in your life is by making someone else feel bad. Okay, now I'm going to laugh. I'm going to laugh because you ain't taking me out of my seat of power. I know who the fuck I am. I know who the fuck I am. You're not going to ever make me feel weak or powerless. And you ain't going to ever have me buy into your agenda or false story that you need me to give to you in order to give you a few minutes of power. Well, y'all know what they can go do, right? Constantly trying or seeking to change people from being who they are is what opens the door to karmic cycles and relationships. And that's not just one person, that's just the mentality. When people still hold that mentality that they're here to change someone, or that someone should change for them, or that when I get into this relationship because of who I am, it's going to elevate this person and all that other bullshit, you still hold that mentality, you're going to open the door to a karmic relationship and karmic suffering, because you're still looking to, instead of alter yourself and call in your perfect match, you're still trying to call in beings and attend to them and change them. And you will find no satisfaction in that, because you're not a frequential match. If you were a frequential match to that being, you wouldn't need to change them. If you were a frequential match to that being, you would evolve together and they would change themselves in accordance with how you're changing yourself. And it would somehow all work together, energetically speaking. You'd be on the same wavelength. Karmic energies occur because we are out of alignment with self and with the beings that we are allowing into our reality. And we are out of alignment with them because we are either trying to pretend to be something we're not, alter ourselves to fit that persona, or we're trying to change them, or all of the above. And that's what the Matrix constantly fed us. Every single romantic story you hear, like growing up and learning about love, you see all of these movies and these shows where in order for it begins in teenage and middle school, right? Middle school and high school, right? In order for the dorky kid to get the cool guy's attention, then she must become cool, right? Always about changing, and they target children at that age because that's when they're most impressionable when it comes to forming the foundation upon which their later romantic history will be built upon. Our whole romantic our whole romantic foundation really begins to come into place in our teenage years. That's and middle school and high school years. That's when we actually begin to not only become interested in love, but we begin to start exploring the possibility of love with other people romantically. So we're very impressionable at that time, and this is why they programmed us to constantly feel like we have to change ourselves and other beings have to change for us. And that is what opens the door to karmic relationships and karmic legacies. Yes? So that's another thing that's been coming up in my awareness for the past couple of days also, is that so many people are involved in romantic partnerships and friendships where they don't genuinely like the person. So many people are involved in romantic and intimate relationships, friendships, families, where people don't actually like the people. And nobody has the balls enough to admit that to themselves or say it. And if they would, then everyone could be free to be properly loved. Right? So, where am I going with this? 1 second. So there's always been like so much pretension, and here's another thing that might blow your mind, because I know when I got the download, it blew my mind, and that is that when beings come together who don't actually like one another, and they're pretending to like one another, maybe they're pretending, and I'm not saying that this is always a conscious thing. A lot of it's unconscious, like I should love this person, or this person does this for me, and this is why I should love them. They helped me here. They accept me when no one else accepts me, and all that. And these little things that people hold on to, they are parts of the puzzle of what put us in alignment with a being, but they're not the whole puzzle. And so if we hold on to one puzzle piece and think we can make the whole puzzle, we're wrong. So what this does is that when people who come together who don't like one another and they won't admit it, they're opening that silent dislike they have for one another in all that they create. Because when they come together, they're creating an energetic foundation, and everything that comes forth from them will hold that seed point energy. So think about it from the standpoint of people who come together and have children, and they hate one another. And some of them are pretending that they love one another, but they don't really even like one another. That's the seed point energy that they are creating from when they bring forth life. So imagine what that child, the energy that child is already instantly going to be born with in their own emotional body. That seed of self-hate is already there. Energy, just because we don't acknowledge something doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean it won't grow. In fact, a lot of the time when we ignore something, we give it more license to grow, crazily. So like if you just leave your garden, everything will just begin to grow crazily. You have to, if you want things to look a certain way, you have to regulate the energies, and we are designed to do that, but because we have been programmed out of the truth of how we are electromagnetic beings and how we're constantly building an energy or tearing an energy down based upon our decisions, our feelings, the true internal energies, not the things that we say and do, but the things that are actually going on inside of us. That's what we're building off of. So many people are building castles of despair with another person, and they're all on social media taking pictures, and they're on holidays, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they can't stand one another's asses. And the world's looking at that and they're wanting it too. And unconsciously, what people are wanting is the discord that is actually happening behind the scenes, because it's about the true energy. It's not about the facade that people want to put up for you. So, there's so much of that happens. I had that happen to me just recently. And it's not the first time. I have people who hate me wanting to be my friend, wanting to be romantically involved with me. I've learned my mistakes. I've learned from seeing how the energies fly at this point to pinpoint it long before it can get anywhere. But it still baffles me that people will come. This person was declaring their love for me. Meanwhile, I knew they hated me. You know why they hated me? It's not even personal. I'm not even upset about it in that way, but they hated me because they were coming to me because they wanted my strong divine mother energy. They had a deep, and I spoke about this a few weeks ago, they had a deep, deep seated childhood wound that they refused to look at, they're not addressing, and still looking outside of themselves for that one, caught up in the spiritual twin flame craziness, looking still for love from another person that they should be looking for from themselves. And I'm not saying that divine partners and the original twin flame a storyline isn't real, but I will say that it's something that, again, the false matrix grabbed a hold of. Y'all know, if you've been rolling with me for a while, how I feel about it. And too many wounded beings are still trying to find love with another person when they haven't dealt with the wound that still got them searching, Because when we actually are ready for the kind of divine love that all of us, we want and we deserve, it's our birthright, when we're ready for it, we're no longer looking. We're so in love with ourselves. We're so at home, finally, in our own energy that we have no choice but to magnetize that. And this person was literally chasing me, which again is a sign that things are not in alignment, right? And I'm not even aware he's chasing me because he's leaving me messages in places I don't check until one day I got all of the messages. It's a long story. But the point of the matter was I could tell that this person had a deep mother wound. I picked up this in their energy long before I even knew that they were trying to pursue. I picked it up because I'm just very aware of these things at this point because of my own history and because of who I am, because of my gifts, because of what I'm here to do. And I had a lot of compassion in that place before, I began to see what was going on behind the scenes when I found all of the messages, and it was just like the minute I finally responded, this person became very, passive aggressive. And all of a sudden, all of these declarations, a love bombing shifted. And I had already known at the time, you don't like me. You're seeking a healing from me that you should be getting from yourself. But not only are you seeking that, but you're seeking to punish me. You haven't yet made amends with whatever situation it was that occurred with your mother, and you want to punish me. And I won't be your punching bag. I've been too many men's emotional punching bags, and even women, because of their unresolved issues with their mothers. Fuck that. I'm here to heal your mother wound, absolutely. But the minute that behavior descends and you don't want to see your own shadow and you want to make me the problem, is the moment I bounce. I don't care how long I've known you. I'm gone. I will not put myself through anyone else's war with their mother again. It's not happening. Okay, So yeah, but this is something that is so common, is beings will be drawn to an aspect of you, a part of you. They will take that one part that they're really drawn to you on, and they will magnify it and make it seem like it's the be all and end all, and kind of like throw out every other aspect of you that makes you the beautiful, multifunctional, multifaceted being that you are. And then the minute that you don't fully add up to that fragmented version of you they need you to be in that time, then they get upset. And that's because they don't like you. They like a fantasy. They like a part of you that they've then created a fantasy off of, but that's not you. They don't love every single aspect that makes you who you are. A few weeks ago, I was musing about this, and I heard so clearly, it was like, you're no longer going to settle to be in any kind of intimate relationships, love and otherwise, where beings don't love every single atom and molecule that makes you up, and you the same for them. And it's possible. That's what I heard. It's possible, because there are very real beings who, beyond the false matrix program, you are molecularly and atomically connected to harmoniously. It's possible, right? Which is just so much bigger to me than the whole like bustedness of the twin flame movement. But let's not rain too much on that parade. So when we align with beings we don't like, and when we allow beings who don't love the wholeness of who we are into our realities, we are squandering our soul value, and we are squandering our soul purpose. And this is a big energy that's coming up for our review right now, because Taurus season is all about reconnecting to the fullness of your divine net worth, and not allowing ourselves anymore to entertain energies that keep our checks out of balance. Right? So I think that's what I'm going to do for today. It's already, it's over an hour, so I'm definitely going to stop here. I do want to, I didn't make this announcement at the beginning. I just reloaded my shop on Ko-Fi. I have 3 events happening this month, beginning with next weekend. I will be I will be hosting on Saturday, May the 18th, my first Karmic Mother recovery group. And there will be 10 spots for that. All information on how that group is set up and what we will be doing is in the Ko-Fi link, which I will put in the description box and comment section below. I will also the following weekend be hosting the TAROTSTROLOGY group Q&A on Saturday, May the 25th, and on Sunday, May the 26th, my small group session of the Road Back to Wholeness, where we're dealing with recalibrating our energy on all planes, meaning dealing with the spiritual, mental, emotional, and material planes to put ourselves back into perfect alignment and to return to our true internal settings by knowing how we operate on all planes. So if you have any interest in attending any of those groups, the TAROTSTROLOGY group this month is open. It's not planet specific, so it's whatever placement you want me to channel and dive into. Then I will put all the information for the links and the ability to book your place through in the description box below and in the comment section. If you would like to donate to the channel and my furtherance, you can also do so through my Ko-Fi and PayPal. I want to say a very big thank you to all of you who have already donated and are donating. I really do appreciate all the ways you sow into me and you help me to show up here and to live in my purpose and do what I came here to do. Those 2 decrees are also still up on my Ko-Fi, the egg cleansing manual, as well as the 2024 TAROTSTROLOGY Ascension report. They are still there if you would like to get them for free or by donation. It's up to you. What else? If you would like to book a soul recovery one-to-one appointment with me, you can do so through my website, solarah.info, or a TAROTSTROLOGY reading or report or divine alignment reading. You can find out all information for that on my website, solarah.info. I will put the information in the description box below. And if you'd like to join me over on Substack, where I post almost daily, I write there. I do audio versions of the Daily Alchemy articles, as well as like weekly energy breakdown, which is also in podcast setting. So if you'd like to join me over there, I also do a monthly group Q&A for my monthly and annual patrons over on Substack. So we meet together as a group every month. It's open to those who are monthly and annual patrons on Substack. So if you'd like to join me over there, I will also put the link to the description. I will put the link in the description box and the comment section below. But I wish you guys all a beautiful rest of your day. To those of you celebrating Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day. To those of you who it's Mother's Day in America, it's not here in the UK. But for those of you who, Mother's Day brings up a lot of ish, I'm sending you so much love. I know it all too well. Being a mother myself, but also because of my own relationships. So Mother's Day is always, there's not enough talk about the complications around the celebration of that holiday when it arises. So for those of you with its complicated situations, which I feel they need to make a whole Hallmark section for its complicated cards, then I'm sending you much love, but I will be back again soon. Take care.